Welcome to Belonging at the Top, driving performance through people. The podcast where leadership gets real and people come first. Your hosts are Dr. Natalie Parks, psychologist, behavior analyst, best-selling author, and your go-to expert for dismantling systems of injustice while building equitable, high-performing teams. And Anthony Butler, leadership coach, thought leader, speaker, and master of helping leaders unlock their team's full potential, one breakthrough at a time. Together, they're here to tackle your toughest leadership challenges with just the right mix of science, strategy, and a sprinkle of humor. In this episode, Natalie and Anthony discuss the difficulty of managing through chaos and provide practical tips for leaders to help them manage teams facing professional and personal challenges.
Welcome to our next episode of Belonging at the Top. We are here for a special episode because Anthony and I are here together. We are at the Spelman Center at Lindenwood University, and the space was made available to us by Dr. Maggie Pavone, who is the director of the Applied Behavior Analysis program here at Lindenwood. So a special shout out and thank you to Lindenwood University, to Dr. Pavone, and the Applied Behavior Analysis program.
Yes, thanks you to all of them. Those good people here. Great to be here. Good to be home in St. Louis. Good to see you in person.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a while.
It's been a while, a couple months. But so this also marks the first live recording of us together in the same room. So that's pretty good. So I think I'm excited and looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, without further ado, why don't we go ahead and jump in. Today's topic actually came about through a conversation that we were having about chaos and all of the chaos that seems to be happening in our individual lives, around us, organizationally, society at large. I think even recently there was a shutdown of Heathrow Airport, which sent the entire world travel into a tailspin. Of just an example, we've had wildfires in Los Angeles that has shut down airports and
planes dropping out of the skies.
All kinds of fun, chaotic things. So our hope is to talk about what do we do? How do we still create a culture of belonging in the midst of all of this chaos?
Yep.
And how can leaders help still create belonging, maybe some semblance of calm, even when everything is so-called burning around you?
Yeah, I think after our last episode, I think that was kind of the conversation was like, some people are listening to this like, who cares? There's chaos everywhere. Right. What can I control? What can I do? But right now, it seems like everything is in such a free fall that I thought it made sense for us as well to kind of make sure we had some kind of connection and at least be not a self-aware, but that we read the room. Like we launched this podcast in the middle of chaos. And so
We did.
We launched a podcast about leadership and belonging and creating this positive work environment in the middle of folks getting fired.
Yep. Folks getting fired, folks getting brought into the office after years of being at home. Yeah, folks getting unfired.
2 days later, 3 weeks later, like, oh, we need these people.
Waiting to know if they're going to get fired again.
So this is our way of saying, hey, we're not ostriches with our heads in the sand. We understand that there is life happening out there, that it's not just about work. So we figured we can talk about that and what we do and what we recommend to our clients about it. So
yep. So I think the first thing is really determining what is your circle of influence and what can you personally control. I think when everything is chaotic around us, we tend to start reaching and focusing on all of the things that are out of our control, right? I have no control over whether you get fired tomorrow and brought back the next day or any of that. But I do have some control over certain things, and I do have a circle of influence that when I reach out to them can help maybe insulate some of that chaos or calm some of that chaos or use those individuals as a way of a sounding board or even a venting session. So that might be kind of the first thing to dig in and talk about.
No, I agree. And I think some of our listeners or viewers are probably aware, like circle of influence is not something we created. That's a Stephen Covey model. I think most people who've studied leadership and management somewhere along the way, I've heard the model of seeing a visual representation of the model somewhere before, but I think it makes sense, right? There are certain things that you have great control over, that you can control what all the inputs are, what the circumstances surrounding the situation are. And then there are things that you just have influence over that you don't control. And there are some things you just don't control at all. And so I think part of managing that, especially when managing people coming back into the office, managing your team, managing the chaos that surrounds them and you and whatever your work function is, that's understanding that you can't fix everything, you can't control everything, understanding that, having an awareness of that, and leading through that. And I think that's where the first thing comes from. So there's different types of chaos. We talk about chaos, but there's personal chaos, there's political chaos that's happening, or external chaos that you can't control that unless you are an elected official or you have some power at some governmental agency. Then there's internal chaos at your organization as well.
Right.
They can be all happening at the same time. They can be one of three, two of three, but figuring out what type of chaos is really dealing with you or your team. So your team might not be affected take an example, internal chaos at your organization. If your team is not in senior leadership, most of your team won't be in senior leadership because you're managing them. So if you're managing people who are not in senior leadership, who are not even in middle management, they are probably somewhat immune to organizational chaos. Somewhat.
Hopefully.
So unless you're a manager that lets it all flow downhill, but at some point, I think as part of being a leader and as being managers, there's certain things that happen at a level above us that we prevent from going beneath us to our team. And there are things that your team is dealing with that shouldn't go up to your supervisors either, right? So depending on where you are in management, I think that's the case. But if you're a frontline employee, your level of daily influence or daily impact with organizational chaos, I would hope is probably not that great. But the further you go up the management chain, the more likely or more probable it is that you will deal with organizational chaos.
Yeah. And I think that brings a good point. And I'm thinking about an organization right now that is facing some pretty massive budget cuts. And we've had some conversations about what is trickling down, what the rumor mill is saying, how to navigate that and calm that chaos. Right? So I think there is a really good point in that one of the things that leaders need to do is figure out how to insulate the rest of their employees from the chaos. And so if it's budget cuts, if it's something else that's happening externally where maybe you don't necessarily have the control, I don't get to choose whether the budget is getting cut or not, but I do have some influence on what is getting cut and I'm part of those discussions. You have to maybe acknowledge, yes, there are some changes that are going to be coming, but you don't want to amplify it. You want to kind of mute it, actually. And employees are looking for reassurance. They are looking for stability. They are looking for calm. And so the leaders that do the best in the midst of chaos are the ones who, I always envision that like the duck, where the duck's legs are swimming super fast underwater. And above ground, above the water, they look super calm. And that's really how the leaders should be, right? They should look calm. Yes, there's stuff happening. There's a lot going on, but we are going to get through this. We are going to survive. Yep. Everything is going to be fine. While maybe their brains are like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So I think as leaders, one of the things to ask yourself is how well are you actually managing just that part of it?
Yep. I think if you can do that well, I think there's another level to that, and that is and it's a phrase I've been using for years. I can't even remember who said the original quote, but you never let a good tragedy go to waste. So there's an opportunity in chaos. Chaos presents a whole lot of opportunity for innovation for the most part. Like because chaos is just change. It's change happening right now that you don't control. That's why we call it chaos. But what can you glean from that? What can you do with your organization? What new things can you develop? What new policies and procedures can you do to really push your organization forward, especially when the chaos is a direct order from someone else saying, hey, you've got to do this. So I think that is probably a good thing too. But no, I think that's something that leaders should really take some time to, after they've personally acknowledged, dealt with, understanding that they can't control it. All right, so what are the silver linings that I can glean out of this? What can we do to make the team better, to make the organization better, to move forward? I think that's something you can, I think that's easier said in workplace chaos than it is in personal chaos. So again, as we're acknowledging what the different types of chaos you could be dealing with, finding that glimmer of hope in personal chaos is not as easy, because it's probably a lot more emotionally invested with that. So it's going to be more difficult to find that silver lining in those situations. But I think when we limit it to work, and we're dealing with workplace issues, we can make that turn and make that leap to finding what's next, what's the good thing, how do we grow from this. I think a good leader can not only calm their team, but rephrase it in a way to say, this will make us better moving forward, regardless of how we got here. This is where we are, and let's move forward.
And I think that leads to the next one of thinking about, in the midst of chaos, one of the things we tend to do as humans is think of all of the things, right? So there may be a lot of opportunities and problems to solve and things like that, but what are the most important ones? How do we prioritize? How do we simplify? When things are happening all around us, even in our personal lives, we tend to start connecting the inner scope of stars, and we get this very complex galaxy, so to speak, of problems and potential solutions and things like that. And what you really want to do is back off of that and look for the direct lines. What are the simple things that we can do? What is the straightest line between A and B? What are the things that are most important overall? And when we do that, then we can start prioritizing, and it allows us to manage that chaos. It also allows us to start celebrating those small wins. And so just thinking about all of the individuals who lost their job and then got their jobs back, there's a lot of probably personal chaos and organizational chaos, team chaos. Nobody really knows what the next step is, or if something else is going to come up, or if the chaos has passed. And so in that uncertainty, refocusing again from a leadership perspective, refocusing on, well, what can we do today to move closer to a goal or accomplish a goal, or what wins can we celebrate, and focusing a little more internally on kind of where are the positives and how do we move forward as a team, and not discounting that the worry, the concern, all of that, but not focusing on it so that it again gets amplified.
And I think that process is what will allow you to then see what the wins can be.
Right.
So if you can do, and it will help you with a calming effect you can have on your team. So if you can simplify it, focus on what you can, again, about your circle of influence. By simplifying it, you're really identifying those things that you actually have direct control over too. So I think those are the key tips. They're definitely related to our first few points, but that simplification process, it adds focus too. A friend posted the other day on Instagram a meme that said, wipe the lens and get focused, right? So
yeah.
This simplifying is wiping the lens, clean the lens, figure out move all those distractions, get them out of the way, get that tunnel vision, simplify, and then move forward. I think that's a great way. And not only is it a great thing to do, I think it's expected of leaders. I think that's a skill that's why you're in leadership.
Right.
And if you can't do that, you probably shouldn't be in leadership.
Or maybe you just need to get a little bit of help and refine that skill. I mean,
I said what I said.
We got to recognize a lot of leaders didn't get training in these things.
And I think that's one of those innate things that a leader should be able to do. Are we disagreeing again?
I think we're disagreeing.
That's fine.
I mean, I don't think anything's innate, but maybe that's a topic for a different day.
You letting your doctoral degree get in the way now. Some things are innate, but anyway, maybe not. Different show. But I do think I think it's a fundamental skill though that leaders do need to be able to weed through the noise and to filter everything out and be able to focus on that. So yeah, is it something you can practice? Yes. Is it a skill we can learn? Definitely can do that. But I think it's definitely a skill. I think we can agree on that. It's definitely a skill that needs to be.
Yes. I don't think we should be promoting people into leadership positions who haven't already displayed that skill.
There you go. See, isn't that what I said, but in a different way?
Kind of, not really.
See? All right. But I think that leads me to another one, which I think is not so innate. At least, and I don't even fall in the story, it wasn't for me, is understanding that how do we create a psychologically safe team?
Yep.
So I think that one may not be it. I think it's more of an advanced leadership topic. Some people do get it naturally because they're more of an empath. So I think it comes easier with people who are empaths in a certain level. But I think by creating a psychological safe team, that you can do that in a way that it helps to ease the calmness of it too. So I think that's one way.
And I think when that word psychologically safe is definitely a buzzword, and it's one of those buzzwords that I think means something a little bit different to everyone. In this context, I think it's a matter of how do we create a space where people can acknowledge there's chaos, can acknowledge there's uncertainty, that anxiety that comes with that, and still focus on solutions, still focus on innovation, can offer up ideas without worrying about ridicule and things like that. And I think for the leaders, this is another one of those skills of how do I recognize and provide empathy for where you may be personally, where the team may be collectively, and refocus them to get the job done. And that takes a lot of skill too, especially if you're feeling the chaos, right? It's very easy for your staff to come to you and say, oh no, we're worried about all these things. You're like, me too. Me too. I'm worried too. As leaders, we have to say like, yeah, I definitely know it is worrisome, and we do recognize that. And we can still do these things to get our job done.
Right. And again, it's another one of those skills that you got to work at, you got to learn. Can you lead without it? Probably not well during chaos. So it's one of those things where if you have a team who's performing well, doesn't mean you have a psychologically safe team.
Well, that's true.
Right? When the cog is working like it's supposed to and the wheels are turning,
right,
and everybody's happy and you're meeting all your KPIs and everybody's getting bonuses and everything works, you don't necessarily need to always show that psychological safe skill set until something happens.
But
So I think this is one of those things that stresses. So my point is that this is a stressor for a leader.
Right.
That this is when, and chaos will cause that stress. Is that's when you then need to dig deeper into your leadership toolkit. When you do need to be able to use skills around psychological safety and creating belonging, because then it becomes more important. Because now your performers aren't performing, and you got to get them back on track.
I agree with that. I think what I was thinking was also, if you have a large enough team, someone on that team is always experiencing there's chaos. Personal life is chaotic in general. And so without psychological safety, I think, yes, you can have, if the rest of the team is performing as we need them to, then one or two people here or there doesn't really stress the system, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yet the system will get stressed over time by having one or two people always.
Correct.
And so I guess that's where I pause on the psychological safety, is that yes, when things are working as well-oiled machine and you have good systems and good processes and good training and everyone is performing excellently, and yet over time we're going to see that system wear down if we don't have psychological safety, even without larger chaos.
I totally get it. So I was using it as an example of how stressors can show what leadership skills you have, where you're lacking and need more development, or what was lacking in the team, but because the team was performing,
right,
nobody saw it. So I think that's one of those things that when I get asked to come in and do some team building and it's about creating belonging and psychological, it normally happens in one or two ways. A team is struggling and they don't know how to get over it, or they've been performing well, but they know they can do more. And then they start to tap into it from that standpoint of learning what psychological safety is. There's normally one of those are the two situations when I'm coming in and ask for a team is we're struggling and we need help, or we're doing great, but we think we can do better. Yeah. So I think that's where your psychological safety, I think your point about it, that if it's not there with one or two people, it can't hold you back from being great. How do you go from a good team to a greater team?
Yeah, that's my experience as well. Well, I think we're getting close to our time. They're going to come in and probably kick us out soon. So.
Probably, but we should close at one point though.
Yes.
Take care of yourself, leaders. Ain't chaos. Do some self-care.
Yes, so, that's true.
We focus on all these external impactors on your team and what the stresses are and what causes the chaos. But leaders are going through personal chaos too.
Right.
We are not immune from the effects of what's happening in society and around us and in governments and in culture. But you've got to take the time and space to take care of yourself. So whatever it is for you, spa day, a bourbon night once a week with your homies, whatever it may be, that's mine. But
I want that to be mine.
But whatever it is, take some time for you got to refresh. You got to be able to sit back and re-energize yourself,
right?
And make sure you are dealing with and coping with the chaos in your life, so you can be there for your family, for your neighbors, and for your team.
The only thing I would add is that work self-care into your regular routine. Don't wait for the chaos to hit and then think, "Gosh, I'm run down and I need a break. I need to take care of myself." So make it either a daily habit, a weekly habit, a monthly habit even, but make it a habit.
Yes.
And that way it's already part of your schedule. When chaos ensues, it's not trying to figure out how to add one more thing to your already overfilled plate.
I love it. Great way to end.
Thank you.
So thank you again for Lindenwood University for having us here at the Spelman Center. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Maggie. That's what I call her.
Yeah, Dr. Maggie Pavone, Applied Behavior Analysis here
Yes.
at Lindenwood. And if you want to check them out more, we will have links in our notes.
Yes. So that's it for this episode. Remember, great leadership starts with belonging.
Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Belonging at the Top. We hope it sparked new ideas for fostering belonging in your leadership journey. If you found it insightful, please like and subscribe to our podcast for more thought-provoking discussions. We'd also love it if you could share it with others who might benefit from the conversation. If you have any feedback or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please email us or drop us a note on Instagram or LinkedIn.